Lou, you've discussed your activities in the mob in some detail. What were you doing precisely at the time the law came after you?
So for a few years, I had a run, and that's probably the most lawless time of my life, where and careless time, because there was no seriousness of being hunted by the FBI, Secret Service, Organized Crime Task Force, and all the other agencies that were involved in eventually taking me down and putting me away. So for that time period, for a few years, I ran wild, and my whole life was one living crime in progress, one thing after another, one day after another. It was just like one continuing crime that really, really never ever had any breaks. I never tapped the brakes. No one ever tapped them for me until eventually the hammer came down all at once. So some of the things that I was doing then was I was hijacking trucks. Obviously, I'd get tips out of Kennedy Airport, and Kennedy Airport was a hijacking haven for mobsters since it was called Idleweed or Idlewild. Even before it was called John F. Kennedy Airport, gangsters were hijacking trucks out of there. So I didn't even know that at the time, that when I was pulling trucks out of Kennedy, I was only doing something that everybody before me had done for a long time. So I was pulling trucks out of there. I was pulling trucks all over the boroughs. Sometimes it was an inside tip where we had a guy tell us there's a truck coming out of here or going there, and we would ambush the driver. Sometimes the driver was in on it. He'd say, look, I'll give you my truck. I'm ready to quit. I'm about to get fired. I don't care if they put me on a lie detector. I don't care if the boss thinks it's me. And we take the truck and we tie the guy up and he's in on it. And then we just have to trust him to keep his mouth shut. That happened a lot. Then there were bigger things. I started going, well, gee, a truck is what, 100,000, maybe 200,000 at most. Sometimes you only get 20 or 30. You live in New York, you see armored cars every day driving past you. Why not hit an armored car? You don't even have to use a fence then. So we started looking at armored cars. And eventually I got a tip from a guy, a driver, and he said he was originally from New York. He went into the Navy. He got out of the Navy, fell on hard times because we don't take care of our veterans half as much as we should in this country. So the guy didn't know what he was going to do for a while. He finally gets a job in an armored car company. He's busting his ass. And he figures, you know what? Let me take a shot at this. He still came from our neighborhood and he had balls when he was young. So he says, let me take a shot at this. I'll see if these guys that I knew from back in the day want to hit my truck. So they contact me. I said, yeah, we'll do it. Let's go over the plan. So we went over the plan, and I was going to fly my crew down to California, which I did. And we had it in mind that he was going to be the guy on the truck. There'd be 3 guys on the truck. And he was with us. We didn't have to worry about him shooting at us. So we only had to worry about 2 guys. So me and 2 guys go down there. We figured that's enough. When we get down there, he tells us he got cold feet. He goes, look, I'm going to give you a different truck to hit. I don't want you to hit mine. There'll be too much heat on me, too much pressure. I said, you kidding me? He says, yeah. I says, all right, we need another guy. So I called back. I called New York and I said to another guy who was in my crew, these are all reliable guys, by the way, guys I've worked with. I had guys in my crew. If I need 2 or 3 guys, I'm choosing from a lot of maybe a half a dozen good guns, guys who know what they're doing under pressure, guys who've I don't have to worry that they're going to shoot up the street because they got nervous. They're capable guys. As far as I'm not saying I was any type of genius or mastermind like they portray heist guys in the movies. This guy's an former MIT scientist. This guy, that's all bullshit. That doesn't happen. We knew what we were doing though. So I contacted another guy in New York and I says, look, if you want some action, get on a plane, go to the airport. I have the ticket for you. Come down here and meet us. We'll meet you at the airport. He gets on a plane. He comes down. Now we got enough guys. We're going to hit a truck. This guy's pointing the truck out for us. Back then, before the age of 9/11, you just put all your guns and your scanners and stuff in a box and you shipped it UPS and nobody cared. And so we shipped all our guns to an address in California so we didn't have to travel with them. And we had all the guns and the tape and the scanners and the 2-way radios and walkie-talkies in the hotel room. So we rented a couple of hotel rooms and we were all staying here. And the guy flies down. We meet him at the airport. And we're going to pull the heist. We go over the plans, last minute plans. At this point, the FBI starts surveilling us. There's surveillance pictures of me floating around online on a balcony in California where we're discussing the armored car robbery. And the FBI is keeping a close eye on us. We didn't know until one day we're coming back from lunch, and it's the day before we're going to launch, we're going to ambush the truck. And the FBI swarms us from I'm talking about, they look like they were coming out of the ground. They look like they were jumping from roofs. I don't know where they came from, but it just appeared like, it looked like they swarmed us like locusts. Get down, MF, get on the floor. We'll blow your effing brains out. You got us. We all get taken into the San Francisco Police Department. We're sitting down there. We all know this is how we knew you want to talk about how guys know each other after committing crimes with each other and growing up with each other over the years. Each one of us, we were separated. Each one of us was taken to speak with 2 FBI agents at a time. We were taken out of a different cell. And each one of us told the agent the same thing. We're here on vacation, just kicking back, relaxing. What do you guys want to bother us for? And when I finally went, he says, every one of you guys, every one of your Confederates told us that you guys are on vacation. I says, well, that's what we are. We're on vacation. What do you do for a living? I didn't do anything. I told him, I think I worked for a beeper store or something. I had a friend of mine who was in the life who owned beeper stores. So I said, I work for a beeper store off the books. He goes, and you guys needed a vacation? Yeah. So one of my co-defendants actually said, because they told him, we think you're down here to hit an armored car. He says, I got armored cars that drive by my house every day. Why would I have to fly to California to hit an armored car? So P.S., they got nothing on us. They let us go. And we go back to the hotel rooms and we says, well, they must have searched the hotel rooms. They have to know we got the guns and the scanners. And how could the FBI not search the hotel rooms? They must have. We got to get rid of everything, go home. I had one guy who still wanted to go through with the robbery. I go, are you out of your mind? You kidding me? They're watching us. So we ended up, we drew straws, and one guy's going to dump the guns in the river. And wherever the Golden Gate Bridge, the river over there, Alcatraz is across the way. He takes the guns, he gets rid of them. And we decided we're going to come home. So what happened was we figured out years later when we were indicted for this crime, we figured out that the guy we called, the backup guy that we called and said, come down, we need an extra guy. He had a best friend who he said, Louis called me and told me to come down for a job to California. I'm flying out, drive me to the airport, whatever. He confided in the guy. That guy was an ongoing confidential informant for the FBI, unbeknownst to him, unbeknownst to us. He went and called the FBI and says, there's this guy, Louis, and my friend's going down there to meet him. They got a big job. I don't know what it is, but they're going to hit something down there. And they figured out it was an armored car. So in the end, after I turned my life around and I was happy about changing my life, obviously I thank God that a monkey wrench was thrown into our plan, because who knows what could have happened on any robbery. We were fortunate enough that it didn't happen. There could have been a shootout in the street. You got 3 armed guards you're taking, and we're all armed. And we don't know the streets of California really that great. We just basically knew what we were told and understood. We looked a little at maps, but we had a getaway plan. But we're not geniuses. We could have definitely got into a shootout and, God forbid, killed somebody, and maybe got killed ourselves, which probably would have been better than killing an innocent person. But whatever the case is, that was one of the things that we did out of state. I was on the FBI's radar, but believe it or not, even though I was on the FBI's radar, they still really didn't know enough about me. They didn't know what I had done. So I still ran wild for a considerable amount of time after that, until one day my fence goes bad. And my fence was a 60-something-year-old man at the time who was multimillionaire, but he didn't want to go to jail. And that's when he said, I'll give you all of these crimes, the biggest heists in the country, some of them. And they were done by this kid. And at the time, I was in my early 20s, and the FBI was like, what? We heard later from the attorneys. They couldn't believe that. They were looking at guys like Jimmy Burke, the guy who did, those type of guys who've been in the life forever, who did big heists and stuff and were down as big heist guys. They were looking at those guys for some of these big heists, never thinking it was a kid from Flushing, Queens, who was running around with this crew that he pieced together. And we were knocking off some of the biggest heists in the country at that time. But that's a whole different story.